And today we are on chapter 14, section 7, sharing perception with the Holy Spirit. So this should be some interesting reading. And I'm sure some more people will be joining as we go. So here's Liz. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And let's see if we can get this back. All right. So we are on A Course in Miracles, chapter 14, section 7, sharing perception with the Holy Spirit. And if you want to follow along in your book, for me, it's page 287. All right, let's begin. What do you want, light or darkness? Knowledge or ignorance are yours, but not both. Opposites must be brought together, not kept apart. For their separation is only in your mind, and they are reconciled by union, as you are. In union, everything that is not real must disappear, for truth is union. As darkness disappears in light, so ignorance fades away when knowledge dawns. Perception is the medium by which ignorance is brought to knowledge. Yet the perception must be without deceit, for otherwise it becomes the messenger of ignorance rather than a helper in the search for truth. The search for truth is but the honest searching out of everything that interferes with truth. Truth is. It can neither be lost, nor sought, nor found. It is there wherever you are, being within you. Yet it can be recognized or unrecognized, real or false to you. If you hide it, it becomes unreal to you because you hid it and surrounded it with fear. Under each cornerstone of fear on which you have erected your insane system of belief, the truth lies hidden. Yet you cannot know this, for by hiding truth in fear, you see no reason to believe that the more you look at fear, the less you see it, and the clearer what it conceals becomes. It is not possible to convince the unknowing that they know. From their point of view, it is not true. Yet it is true because God knows it. These are clearly opposite viewpoints on what the unknowing are. To God, unknowing is impossible. It is therefore not a point of view at all, but merely a belief in something that does not exist. It is only this belief that the unknowing have, and by it, they are wrong about themselves. They have defined themselves as they were not created. Their creation was not a point of view, but rather a certainty. Uncertainty brought to certainty does not retain any conviction of reality. Our emphasis has been on bringing what is undesirable to the desirable, what you do not want to what you do. You will realize that salvation must come to you this way, if you consider what dissociation is. Dissociation is a distorted process of thinking whereby two systems of belief which cannot coexist are both maintained. If they are brought together, their joint acceptance becomes impossible. But if one is kept in darkness from the other, their separation seems to keep them both alive and equal in their reality. Their joining thus becomes the source of fear, for if they meet, acceptance must be withdrawn from one of them. You cannot have them both, for each denies the other. Apart, this fact is lost from sight, for each in a separate place can be endowed with firm belief. Bring them together, and the fact of their complete incompatibility is instantly apparent. One will go because the other is seen in the same place. Light cannot enter darkness when a mind believes in darkness and will not let it go. Truth does not struggle against ignorance, and love does not attack fear. What needs no protection does not defend itself. Defense is of your making. God knows it not. The Holy Spirit uses defenses on behalf of truth only because you made them against it. His perception of them according to his purpose merely changes them into a call for what you have attacked with them. Defenses, like everything you made, must be gently turned to your own good, translated by the Holy Spirit from means of self-destruction to means of preservation and release. His task is mighty, but the power of God is with him. Therefore, to him, it is so easy that it was accomplished the instant it was given him for you. Do not delay in your return to peace by wondering how he can fulfill what God has given him to do. Leave that to him who knows. You are not asked to do mighty tasks yourself. You are merely asked to do the little he suggests you do, trusting him only to the small extent of believing that if he asks it, you can do it. You will see how easily all that he asks can be accomplished. The Holy Spirit asks of you but this: bring him every secret you have locked away from him. Open every door to him and bid him enter the darkness and lighten it away. At your request, he enters gladly. He brings the light to darkness if you made the darkness open to him. But what you hide, he cannot look upon. He sees for you, and unless you look with him, he cannot see. The vision of Christ is not for him alone, but for him with you. Bring therefore all your dark and secret thoughts to him, and look upon them with him. He holds the light, and you the darkness. They cannot coexist when both of you look together on them. His judgment must prevail, and he will give it to you as you join your perception to his. Joining with him in seeing is the way in which you learn to share with him the interpretation of perception that leads to knowledge. You cannot see alone. Sharing perception with him, whom God has given you, teaches you how to recognize what you see. It is the recognition that nothing you see means anything alone. Seeing with him will show you that all meaning, including yours, comes not from double vision, but from the gentle fusing of everything into one meaning, one emotion, and one purpose. God has one purpose which he shares with you. The single vision which the Holy Spirit offers you will bring this oneness to your mind with clarity and brightness so intense you could not wish for all the world not to accept what God would have you have. Behold your will, accepting it as his, with all his love as yours, all honor to you through him, and through him unto God. Well, that sums it up quite nicely. Hi, Liz. Welcome today. Great to have you here.
Hi, thank you.
Anybody have any thoughts about what we just read? Sharing perception with the Holy Spirit? Mary and I were just talking about how it's easy to talk about being spiritual and seeing with like spiritual vision. And then the minute you get into a situation where, you know, you're in the world and you start firmly planting your feet in the ground with your ideas that you come up with, you kind of let go of that connection, right, to the Holy Spirit and to source. And you're like, I'm right about this, and this is the way it is, right? But all we have to do is invite the Holy Spirit in to look at the darkness with us, at every single problem that we have. And it's so easy to forget to do that when you get caught up in the day and you get caught up in conversations and with the world and the news and everything else. But how simple and easy just to say, okay, I let go, I open this door, not to look at myself, but with Christ's vision, with the Holy Spirit. And I know sometimes those words, even for me, just seem kind of strange because I was never raised with any type of formal religion. So when I envision that, it looks more like I'm opening my eyes and allowing that ray of light that joins my mind with the one mind of God to see the truth in things and to hear the truth in what is being talked about, to uncover the truth, right? And not to try to do it on my own, literally to just let it go and asking help of the Holy Spirit to see it truthfully and to hear it truthfully for me.
Well, I have so much of the experience of the clear vision now that when I start sort of having an experience and I think of it being sort of that I'm hopeless, I'm having this involved in a thing of the world and I'm getting wrapped up in it, and then I start feeling like I have no choice and start feeling all of those emotions, and it's like, I very quickly now get tapped on the shoulder. It's like, having fun, if it's no fun, why are you doing this? Because you obviously know you have the power of choice. You know what you're doing and why. It's like, oh, shut up. Let me enjoy my misery. I just want to enjoy my misery. He's like, all right. As long as you know, you can end that misery whenever you choose. Like, yeah, I know. All right. And then it's like, yeah, okay, so why am I doing this? Like, what am I getting out of this? And so, all right, I'm done with this now. And it's just this thing that happens in a nanosecond, but it's so amusing. And what happens is I just start laughing. It just becomes so amusing. And then the laughter just helps me, get back into my right-mindedness, shall we say. And it's like, yeah, okay, I enjoyed that experience for whatever it was meant to give me, whether it was just knowing that I can still, go down that road or not. But the higher knowing is that it's all my choice. And that's just so empowering, so amazing. It's like, okay, I can choose this. And when I'm done, I can choose peace again. And it's sort of the peace never really leaves, because as soon as it starts to, it's like, why am I, what am I getting out of this? Why is this more important than the peace? And it isn't. And therefore I choose peace again. And it just happens so quickly now. It's pretty automatic, but I try to, like, sometimes I portray those two sides going on in their discussion so that it's humorous, but it helps people, acknowledge, like, what can be going on inside. But it happens for me, pretty much instantly, like you learn to drive a car and you're not even aware of the choices you're making, whereas when you learn to do it initially, you're worrying about everything. It's automatic.
That's great, Mary. I love that. You said, are you having fun yet? Are you having fun?
That sounds great. I was so curious, Mary, how long did it take to get to that point to where you actually recognize it and able to switch?
When I had that joining experience after that, which has been almost a year and a half, after that, that's pretty much how my life has been. And my awe is how automatic it's become. Whereas that first 15 months from my sort of awakening to the joining, it was kind of the work of it and the feeling like, was I really deserving, and was I insane, and all of these questions that I was still unsure of, but seeing that God was doing the work, and so I was going with the flow of it. But then, it markedly changed. So, but it's hard to evaluate it in time, because I don't know how much time it took me to get to the awakening. How long was I really working on it? Has it been my whole life? Or, where was that? But I just turned 65. So it all depends on which perspective you want to jump in on as to how long it took.
Yeah.
That's great.
See, for me, I started to become aware of my feelings like that as I was studying this and other disciplines. And I can tell you that I'm not there completely yet, because I still get triggered. I do. The difference is now that as soon as I get triggered, I can become aware of it. So I either choose to stop doing what I was doing, engaging, internalize, whatever, or just shut up and be quiet. Because if I cannot, how am I going to put it? I'm aware of it. And if I cannot control what I'm going to say, then I say nothing. And in that way, I can scale back. I mean, that incident that I had with some road rage incident, and that guy was so whack that my adrenaline continued to pump, wanting to react, and didn't. And I didn't. I mean, that to me, I think was easier to do than when it's more subtle. I think when it's more subtle, the engagement, especially if it's somebody that I'm close to, that's really hard to not try to, talk it back. But if I see that I am not gaining any ground on it, then it's just worthless to even continue to try and reason, because you can't reason with some certain things. You cannot. There's no way, unless that person is also close to you in terms of their spiritual awareness. There's no sense in even trying to talk, because it's not going to happen. It's a two-way street, and sometimes you have to just maintain your own integrity by not saying a word or just walking away from an explosive situation. But at least that awareness is there. And it takes me a long time to get rid of it, but eventually I do. It doesn't last like it used to, where you keep mulling it over in your head, and the dialogue is still going on.
How about you, Liz? Where are you on the path?
I'm just starting. I just heard about the book recently, and when I started with your group, it was the first time I was reading, and I've been waiting for the first of the year. I got about 3 months to the daily tasks, and major life issues happen, health issues, family issues, and we had to move, and we're back, and finally things are starting to get a little settled. So I kept thinking in the back of my head, come January 1st, I want to start on day one again and do the 365 days.
Great.
So yeah, I'm very new to this.
Great. That's awesome.
I'd like to see, I like watching what you guys have more seasoned and been through it, and know that it's possible to gain all the stuff that we are told we will get able to see it in real life with you guys is great.
It's a great question. And I can say too that, from my past experiences, I had a lot of pitfalls, like so many relationships, and just, experiencing the death of the body from my mother, my father, my brother, going through all of those transformations. And, being a single mom for a long time too. And for me, I got to that point where I just had to let go of everything in the world because I was so angry. And like you said, Liz, the promise of the happily ever after, I was just, doing everything by the books. I was being the good wife. I was being the great mom. I was trying to do everything. I was working, and I thought, when am I going to get my happily ever after? And then when things just continually fell apart again and again and again, I just got mad. to the point where I remember even one day saying to God, this is BS. I'm not interested in this. I don't know if you think this is a great big joke. This is supposed to be fun, or I thought it was supposed to be fun, or some semblance of enjoyment. And it just was disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. And I got myself into a really deep, dark depression because I just lost faith in all of it. And luckily I still had my children that I had to get up every morning and get them ready for school. And I had to put on the smiley face, even though it was really, really hard. And then as soon as they'd get on the bus, I'd go right back to bed, and I just pull the covers over my head, and I just was so depressed, and I felt like these heavy chains on me, and I just couldn't get through it. And, it wasn't until I lost everything inside of me and stopped looking out here for my salvation, and there was like nothing left, just quiet. And there was just this little ray of this little spark. And I thought, what is that? And I had never noticed it before. And it was this little feeling of happiness, which was inside of me. It wasn't out here. And there was no reason for it to be there, but it was there. And it was only when I let go of searching for it out here, and everything was quiet, and I just happened to notice there was something inside of me that was still shining. And then I started just growing that and growing it and nurturing it with self-love and, all of that. And that was my big turning point, when I let go of everything out here and just focused on my connection to source energy, which was the bridge, right? The Holy Spirit, the ray of light that connects us to that one mind of God.
That's such an awesome testimony. I'm so humbled to get to hear that experience. Thank you, Terry, for enlightening me and us with that, because that's what I used to believe in. The Quaker religion is very similar to that we all have that sparks. For some of us, it's brighter than others, and we, appreciate it, and therefore that helps it to grow, and so on and so forth. My experience from the awakening, which I thought was like, that was an epiphany and I'm well on my way. And that 15 months only showed me that I really wasn't, because I wasn't including myself in the awesome world of God. I still didn't have the mind of God. I just thought I did. And finally, after the 15 months of being shown over and over again that I have to deal with my feeling lesser than, with my feeling unworthy, with me being sort of on the outside looking in, feeling like I've been seeking and was finding, but not really ready to embrace it. And when I finally embraced that, then I was joined. And then the rest was a piece of cake. So that was an interesting 15 months, and the rest of it has been indescribable.
Yeah, the one point that both of you have made is the one that took me the longest, I guess, to realize. That is, when I do meditation and prayer, I send love to everyone, right? Even my enemies on down the line. And even when I'm feeling stressed out. But the one that really calms me down is when I start sending love to myself.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the one thing that we have to keep in mind, not to think, because I used to think, well, I don't want to be some kind of a misogynist person, or, some kind of, it's not deceit. To send love to yourself is an act of God, because we are God. So why not send that? Yeah, right? We're love. Exactly. Why not send it to yourself? That's not trying to put yourself above anybody else. And that was what I think I thought was happening. I said, no, you can't do that. You can't be self-love, loving yourself, because that's like almost hating yourself. But but it's not. That's the whole point. It is not. You're sending love to yourself. It's an act of kindness to yourself, that's the one thing that I think if the more we do it, the more it calms us down, centers us, and puts us in that state of bliss, if I can say that. It does. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that is where we're supposed to be. That's how babies are. You see a baby, why are you attracted to that baby? Because you sense that love that's emanating from them, right?
Right. And you can't give love if you don't have it to give. Right.
Yep.
Okay, shall we carry on, or is there more discussion? This next section is going to be really interesting. The holy meeting place. In the darkness, you have obscured the glory God gave you and the power he bestowed upon his guiltless son. All this lies hidden in every darkened place, shrouded in guilt and in the dark denial of innocence. Behind the dark doors you have closed lies nothing, because nothing can obscure the gift of God. It is the closing of the doors that interferes with recognition of the power of God that shines in you. Banish not power from your mind, but let all that would hide your glory be brought to the judgment of the Holy Spirit, and there undone. Whom he would save for glory is saved for it. He has promised the Father that through him, you would be released from littleness to glory. To what he promised God, he is wholly faithful, for he shares with God the promise that was given him to share with you. He shares it still for you. Everything that promises otherwise, great or small, however much or little valued, he will replace with the one promise given unto him to lay upon the altar to your Father and his Son. No altar stands to God without his Son, and nothing brought there that is not equally worthy of both, but will be replaced by gifts wholly acceptable to Father and to Son. Can you offer guilt to God? You cannot. Then offer it to his Son. For they are not apart, and gifts to one are offered to the other. You know not God, because you know not this. And yet you do know God and also this. All this is safe within you, where the Holy Spirit shines. He shines not in division, but in the meeting place, where God, united with his Son, speaks to his Son through him. Communication between what cannot be divided cannot cease. The holy meeting place of the unseparated Father and his Son lies in the Holy Spirit and in you. All interference in the communication that God himself wills with his Son is quite impossible here. Unbroken and uninterrupted love flows constantly between the Father and the Son, as both would have it be, and so it is. Let your mind wander not through darkened corridors away from light's center. You and your brother may choose to lead yourselves astray, but you can be brought together only by the guide appointed for you. He will surely lead you to where God and his Son await your recognition. They are joined in giving you the gift of oneness, before which all separation vanishes. Unite with what you are. You cannot join with anything except reality. God's glory and his Son's belong to you in truth. They have no opposite, and nothing else can you bestow upon yourself. There is no substitute for truth, and truth will make this plain to you as you are brought into the place where you must meet with truth. And there you must be led through gentle understanding, which can lead you nowhere else. Where God is, there are you. Such is the truth. Nothing can change the knowledge given you by God into unknowingness. Everything God created knows its creator. For this is how creation is accomplished, by the creator and by his creations. In the holy meeting place are joined the Father and his creations, and the creations of his Son with them together. There is one link that joins them all together, holding them in the oneness out of which creation happens. The link with which the Father joins himself to those he gives the power to create can never be dissolved. Heaven itself is union with all of creation and with its one creator. And heaven remains the will of God for you. Lay no gifts other than this upon your altars, for nothing can coexist with it. Here your little offerings are brought together with the gift of God, and only what is worthy of the Father will be accepted by the Son, for whom it is intended. To whom God gives himself, he is given. Your little gifts will vanish on the altar where he has placed his own. The holy meeting place. I feel like that little spark inside of me was my holy meeting place, right? It was that place that was like, oh, look at you. Who are you and what are you? And it was just, it wasn't even a question. It was like a knowing. It was like the light just drew me into it. Anybody have any comments about what we just read? All right, let's keep going then. The reflection of holiness. The at-one-ment does not make holy. You were created holy. It merely brings unholiness to holiness, or what you made to what you are. Bringing illusion to truth or the ego to God is the Holy Spirit's only function. Keep not your making from your Father, for hiding it has cost you knowledge of him and of yourself. The knowledge is safe, but where is your safety apart from it? The making of time to take the place of timelessness lay in the decision to be not as you are. Thus, truth was made past, and the present was dedicated to illusion. And the past too was changed and interposed between what always was and now. The past that you remember never was, and represents only the denial of what always was. Bringing the ego to God is but to bring error to truth, where it stands corrected, because it is the opposite of what it meets. It is undone because the contradiction can no longer stand. How long can contradiction stand when its impossible nature is clearly revealed? What disappears in light is not attacked. It merely vanishes because it is not true. Different realities are meaningless, for reality must be one. It cannot change with time or mood or chance. Its changelessness is what makes it real. This cannot be undone. Undoing is for unreality, and this reality will do for you. Merely by being what it is, does truth release you from everything that it is not. The at-one-ment is so gentle, you need but whisper to it, and all its power will rush to your assistance and support. You are not frail with God beside you, yet without him, you are nothing. The at-one-ment offers you God. The gift that you refused is held by him in you. The Holy Spirit holds it there for you. God has not left his altar, though his worshipers placed other gods upon it. The temple still is holy, for the presence that dwells within it is holiness. In the temple, holiness waits quietly for the return of them that love it. The presence knows they will return to purity and to grace. The graciousness of God will take them gently in and cover all their sense of pain and loss with the immortal assurance of their Father's love. There, fear of death will be replaced with joy of life. For God is life, and they abide in life. Life is as holy as the holiness by which it was created. The presence of holiness lives in everything that lives. For holiness created life and leaves not what it created holy as itself. In this world, you can become a spotless mirror in which the holiness of your Creator shines forth from you to all around you. You can reflect heaven here. Yet no reflections of the images of other gods must dim the mirror that would hold God's reflection in it. Earth can reflect heaven or hell, God or the ego. You need but leave the mirror clean and clear of all the images of hidden darkness you have drawn upon it. God will shine upon it of himself. Only the clear reflection of himself can be perceived upon it. Reflections are seen in light. In darkness, they are obscure, and their meaning seems to lie only in shifting interpretations rather than in themselves. The reflection of God needs no interpretation. It is clear, clean, but the mirror and the message that shines forth from what the mirror holds out for everyone to see, no one can fail to understand. It is the message that the Holy Spirit is holding to the mirror that is in him. He recognizes it because he has been taught his need for it, but knows not where to look to find it. Let him then see it in you and share it with you. Could you but realize for a single instant the power of healing that the reflection of God shining in you can bring to all the world, you could not wait to make the mirror of your mind clean, to receive the image of the holiness that heals the world. The image of holiness that shines in your mind is not obscure and will not change. Its meaning to those who look upon it is not obscure, for everyone perceives it as the same. All bring their different problems to its healing light, and all their problems find but healing there. The response of holiness to any form of error is always the same. There is no contradiction in what holiness calls forth. Its one response is healing, without regard for what is brought to it. Those who have learned to offer only healing because of the reflection of holiness in them are ready at last for heaven. Their holiness is not a reflection, but rather the actual condition of what was but reflected to them here. God is no image, and his creations, as part of him, hold him in them in truth. They do not merely reflect truth, for they are truth. That was interesting. I love that reflection of holiness. I particularly like that last paragraph, or maybe the last couple of paragraphs. Let me see. Okay, it's in paragraph number 8. It's sentence number 4. Those who have learned to offer only healing because of the reflection of holiness in them are ready at last for heaven. Right? Because we always say, well, when am I going to see heaven on earth? When is my vision going to be whole? And there's the answer right there, right? When we are clear and we allow ourselves to reflect only healing, then we will finally be able to see heaven on earth. When we offer only healing, right? No judgment. We only offer love and healing, because that's the only response, right, to anything. All attack is merely a cry for love. So if we can just offer love anytime we feel attacked, and realize it's a call for love, then our mirror is clean and clear. And then we can reflect that clear love and be able to see heaven on earth.
And it's not to say that we have glimpses of that, but we're not aware of it. Even in a regular state of being, like what we think we are in now, there are glimpses of it.
Right.
And you know, it's so a lot of disciplines exercise rituals to get us there.
Right.
There's certain things you can do, you know, like the practicing of forgiveness, you know, the little things like there's an exercise or a ceremony that I've done where you carry around an object, let's say for instance a rock, and you put all your angst into it, you know, all your worries, people you don't like, things like that, until you fill that rock up so that it's so heavy you can't carry it anymore. And then toss it into somewhere where it can never be found, like out there in the ocean, you know, somewhere. And, you know, those things kind of work. I know they kind of seem kind of ridiculous, but trust me, it works. It works. And little things like that, there's so much stuff we can do to try and get you there, you know, get that self-love. Just keep sending that self-love to you every time you're meditating at night, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
It's a nice way to fall asleep, by the way.
Yeah, it is. No, it definitely is. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's practice, practice, practice. And don't worry if you're not getting it. It'll come. Trust me, it will come.
Yep, that is true. All right, any other discussions or should we keep reading? Keep going. All right. So the equality of miracles. When no perception stands between God and his creations or between his children and their own, the knowledge of creation must continue forever. The reflections you accept into the mirror of your mind in time, but bring eternity nearer or farther. But eternity itself is beyond all time. Reach out of time and touch it with the help of its reflection in you. And you will turn from time to holiness, as surely as the reflection of holiness calls everyone to lay all guilt aside. Reflect the peace of heaven here and bring this world to heaven. For the reflection of truth draws everyone to truth. And as they enter into it, they leave all reflections behind. In heaven, reality is shared and not reflected. By sharing its reflection here, its truth becomes the only perception the Son of God accepts, and thus remembrance of his Father dawns on him, and he can no longer be satisfied with anything but his own reality. You on earth have no conception of limitlessness. For the world you seem to live in is a world of limits. In this world, it is not true that anything without order of difficulty can occur. The miracle, therefore, has a unique function and is motivated by a unique teacher who brings the laws of another world to this one. The miracle is the one thing you can do that transcends order, being based not on differences, but on equality. Miracles are not in competition, and the number of them that you can do is limitless. They can be simultaneous and legion. This is not difficult to understand once you conceive of them as possible at all. What is more difficult to grasp is the lack of order of difficulty that stamps the miracle as something that must come from elsewhere, not from here. From the world's viewpoint, this is impossible. Perhaps you've been aware of lack of competition among your thoughts, and even though they may conflict, can occur together and in great numbers. You may indeed be so used to this that it causes you little surprise. Yet you are also used to classifying some of your thoughts as more important, larger, or better, wiser, or more productive and valuable than others. This is true of the thoughts that cross the mind of those who think they live apart. For some are reflections of heaven, while others are motivated by the ego, which but seems to think. The result is a weaving, changing pattern that never rests and is never still. It shifts unceasingly across the mirror of your mind, and the reflections of heaven last but a moment and grow dim as darkness blots them out. Where there was light, darkness removes it in an instant, and alternating patterns of light and darkness sweep constantly across your mind. The little sanity that still remains is held together by a sense of order that you establish. Yet, the very fact that you can do this and bring any order into chaos shows you that you are not an ego, and that more than an ego must be in you. For the ego is chaos, and if it were all of you, no order at all would be possible. Yet, though the order you impose upon your mind limits the ego, it also limits you. To order is to judge, and to arrange by judgment. Therefore, it is not your function, but the Holy Spirit's. It will seem difficult for you to learn that you have no basis at all for ordering your thoughts. This lesson, the Holy Spirit teaches by giving you the shining examples of miracles to show you that your way of ordering is wrong, but that a better way is offered you. The miracle offers exactly the same response to every call for help. It does not judge the call. It merely recognizes what it is and answers accordingly. It does not consider which call is louder or greater or more important. You may wonder how you, who are still bound to judgment, can be asked to do that which requires no judgment of your own. The answer is very simple. The power of God, and not of you, engenders miracles. The miracle itself is but the witness that you have the power of God in you. That is the reason why the miracle gives equal blessing to all who share in it. And that is also why everyone shares in it. The power of God is limitless, and being always maximal, it offers everything to every call from anyone. There is no order of difficulty here. A call for help is given help. The only judgment involved is the Holy Spirit's one division into two categories, one of love and the other, the call for love. You cannot safely make this division, for you are much too confused either to recognize love or to believe that everything else is nothing but a call for love. You are too bound to form and not to content. What you consider content is not content at all. It is merely form and nothing else. For you do not respond to what a brother really offers you, but only to the particular perception of his offering by which the ego judges it. The ego is incapable of understanding content and is totally unconcerned with it. To the ego, if the form is acceptable, the content must be. Otherwise, it will attack the form. If you believe you understand something of the dynamics of the ego, let me assure you that you understand nothing of it. For of yourself, you could not understand it. The study of the ego is not the study of the mind. In fact, the ego enjoys studying itself and thoroughly approves the undertakings of students who would analyze it, thus approving its importance. Yet they but study form with meaningless content, for their teacher is senseless, though careful to conceal this fact behind impressive sounding words, but which lack any consistent sense when they are put together. This is the characteristic of the ego's judgments. Separately, they seem to hold, but put them together, and the system of thought that arises from joining them is incoherent and utterly chaotic. For the form is not enough for meaning, and the underlying lack of content makes a cohesive system impossible. Separation, therefore, remains the ego's chosen condition. For no one alone can judge the ego truly. Yet when two or more join together in searching for truth, the ego can no longer defend its lack of content. The fact of union tells them it is not true. It is impossible to remember God in secret and alone. For remembering him means you are not alone and you are willing to remember it. Take no thought for yourself, for no thought you hold is for yourself. If you would remember your Father, let the Holy Spirit order your thoughts and give only the answer with which he answers you. Everyone seeks for love as you do, but knows it not unless he joins with you in seeking it. If you undertake to search together, you bring with you a light so powerful that what you see is given meaning. The lonely journey fails because it has excluded what it would find. As God communicates to the Holy Spirit in you, so does the Holy Spirit translate his communications through you so you can understand them. God has no secret communications, for everything of him is perfectly open and freely accessible to all, being for all. Nothing lives in secret, and what you would hide from the Holy Spirit is nothing. Every interpretation you would lay upon a brother is senseless. Let the Holy Spirit show him to you and teach you both his love and his call for love. Neither his mind nor yours holds more than these two orders of thought. The miracle is the recognition that this is true. Where there is love, your brother must give it to you because of what it is. But where there is a call for love, you must give it because of what you are. Earlier, I said this course will teach you how to remember what you are, restoring to you your identity. We have already learned that this identity is shared. The miracle becomes the means of sharing it. By supplying your identity, wherever it is not recognized, you will recognize it. And God himself, who wills to be with his Son forever, will bless each recognition of his Son with all the love he holds for him. Nor will the power of all his love be absent from any miracle you offer to his Son. How then can there be any order of difficulty among them? Well, that was a good reminder. So anytime you are looking at your brother or talking to your brother, it's just always a call for love in whatever conversation you have. And we can't hear you, Ernesto. You're still on mute.
I said, even when you're being berated.
Yeah, because
You
it's not about you, right? I always say your opinion of me is none of my business. And why is that? Because it has nothing to do with me, right? So when a brother is berating you, it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with his perception of his reality, and he's projecting that on you.
Don Miguel Ruiz tells a story about that. He says, this person knows a lot about me. How does he know so much about me? You know, in other words, how can he know so much about it? You should thank him, you know, because he's trying to help you, you know, get along better with yourself.
Right.
Oh, it was funny. He can be so funny sometimes, you know, and it makes sense, you know. This person doesn't even know you, right? This person off the street, whatever, you know, road rage. It's like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, that's it. When you look at it in those terms, it seems ridiculous, the whole thing.
Yeah. Even people that do know you, that have an opinion of you, don't know you, right? Because the opinion that they're sharing with you is just a projection of their reality or their illusion, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you can just
Yeah.
always
And when
go ahead, Mary.
I was just going to say, and when I can step aside and not absorb that energy, when I can just let it flow, it benefits both of us because they get to send that energy somewhere else and it doesn't have to be mine. So I don't have to, take on any of that angst and confusion and distraction because it's not mine to carry. But
Right.
they need to send it forth in order for them to feel better, in a sense, heal, because they didn't need that energy either. So when I don't take it personal, I give it the space to just move on and dissipate.
Yep. Exactly. And then all we have to do is ask the Holy Spirit to help us to reinterpret it, right? Because we can't of ourselves, our judgment is always coming from the ego. It's either fear or love, right? It's only two places any of your thoughts are residing from. So if it's not from the Holy Spirit, which is love, then it's fear.
Yeah.
Well, we have about 4 minutes left, so I don't think I'm going to read any more. The next time we read, it'll be the Test of Truth, which looks really interesting, and that'll be the end of chapter 14. But we'll have to wait till next year to read that. That's kind of exciting, right? Yeah, it'll be January 3rd when we get together again. I was already saying I have a nice quiet New Year's. I'll probably do a burning bowl ceremony on my own, and that'll be a fun way of letting go of the past.
Is that where you write down all the stuff that you want to? But that's another ceremony. Explain that one. I think I've forgotten.
The burning bowl ceremony is where you have like a fire pit outside or some safe place where you have a fire, whether it's in a fireplace or someplace. And you take two sheets of paper and you write down everything you want to get rid of and purge from your life. Any bad feelings, any bad habits, whatever. And bad is a judgment, of course, but anything that is no longer serving you, right? Write it down, get it all out. And then you go to the fire and you kind of ball up the piece of paper and you just let it go. And you see it burn up and you allow it to just be gone from your awareness, from your energy, from your life. And, and then you can gaze for a moment and maybe connect to the oneness, be part of that atonement at 1 minute, call in help from the Holy Spirit to write down everything you want to make manifest in the new year. And you write it all down. And after you write it all down, you can either give it to a facilitator if you're with a group of people, or you can put a reminder in your calendar and put it someplace where you won't forget about it, or even write in your calendar where you've put it. And usually around Thanksgiving time, I mail them all back out to anybody who's with me, and I'm the facilitator. And you read it around Thanksgiving time of next year, 2022. And you read all of the things that you had written down and all of the energy you put into what you want to make manifest for the new year. But there's more you can get into it. You can do more, get into more of the ceremony. You can do more praying. You can do more meditating. You can do a sage burning with it. You can do crystal bowls. There's all kinds of things. You can do a sound healing with it. So you can make it as intricate or as simple as you like. So that's it. That's the burning bowl ceremony. And with that, I guess we can say Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you for joining today. It's a nice small group, but sometimes that's nice too.
Thank you. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Liz. Happy
Oh, Happy
New
New
Year.
Year.
Happy New Year, Mary. Happy New Year, Ernesto. Great to see all of
Happy
you
New
guys.
Year. Happy New Year, everyone.
We will
Happy
see you next year. Woohoo.
All right.
All right, guys. Take care.
Love.
Bye.
Love to all of you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.